Macklin Celebrini, all things considered, was pretty good at the World Juniors this year. The guy has been lighting the NCAA on fire. He was pegged to being this year's superstar underage Canadian prospect to watch for at the tournament. A la Connor Bedard, maybe not in the same realm 100%, but still in that territory. Celebrini had 8 points in 5 World Junior games for Team Canada. And for a Canadian team that was recently eliminated earlier today by the Czechs, you can understand why there is so much confusion as to what went down. Now, just taking a look at this Canadian squad, Celebrini was first overall in points, followed by Brayden Yager. You have the Seattle Kraken prospect Carson Rekoff, who was out there in a pretty big tie for third with Matthew Wood, the Bruins prospect Poitras, who had gotten loaned out, and Denton Matejchuk was over here. Not to mention all of the other prospects who rounded out this tournament, although admittedly, this year's World Juniors Canadian squad did not produce as many points as, let's say, last year's. Let's go over to the 2023 World Junior squad. You have 3 players over 10 points, 4 players who are at 10 points, 1 who is at 20. Everybody else over here was getting involved in the action as well. This Canadian squad was bananas good. But this year, you only had 1 guy who was within 2 points of reaching 10. Now, I get it, the games played plays a part in it. I mean, last year's squad had 2 more games, so who really knows what would have happened? But, just in general, the big question floating around now is, what the hell happened to this World Junior squad? Now, in order to illustrate some of my thoughts, because, I kind of watched the games, I had them on in the background, I had the 10-0 stomping of Latvia on my TV while I was doing other things. Because this is a pretty notable loss and pretty bad result for a Canadian squad that a lot of people said could have been better, what I wanted to do was head over onto the Our Hockey sub, because we had ourselves the post-game thread for today's Czechia versus Canada game, as well as the Czechia goal with 11 seconds left in the third period to win the game, wherein there are a bunch of comments from a lot of Reddit users that are pretty much saying what I feel the general consensus is regarding this Canadian squad. So, let's start out with the IIHF postgame thread. Czechia versus Canada. You had yourselves the game-winning goal scored in the last 11 seconds. Really unfortunate goal. Unfortunate loss for Team Canada. They got offense in this game from Jake Furlong and Matthew Wood. But some of the comments go out there and highlight some interesting things. Congrats, Canada, you made history. First medal round game loss to Czechia ever. First quarterfinal loss that didn't involve Finland in some way, because in 2019 they lost to Finland, 2016 to Finland, 1998 they lost to Russia, which happened in Finland. First quarterfinal loss in a year not divisible by 3. Okay, that's really weird. And they lost despite having 0 penalty minutes in the game. First 0 penalty minute game in Canadian history. And they lost. Now, Warren did not get a penalty, a 2-minute minor, whatever, it was a penalty shot, although he was in the box first. You have yourselves this hot take. The game of hockey is better when it's not always the same 2 teams going to the finals. Good game, Czechs. Excited for more Czech-skilled players in the future. That's pretty good, pretty sportsmanlike to go out there and say, and I agree. It's awesome to see underdog stories come out here and take over. Here's a reply that goes over the coaching staff. Alan Letang should never see a coaching job ever again. Not utilizing your best players and the best lines until it was far too late. He was completely outmatched every single game, and he cost us this game. Agreed. It's crazy that in the top 4 scoring for Canada, 3 players played 4th-line minutes for 95% of the competition. Yager, Wood, and Rekoff. The other is Celebrini, who had started on the 4th line and only got top-line minutes starting from the game against Germany. The majority of the scoring for Team Canada was coming from the bottom 6, and yet he refused to even roll 4 lines. Unacceptable, giving Savoy and Cowan 23 minutes a game and putting the 4th line out there for 13. Now here's the thing, when it comes to these guys, Easton Cowan, Matthew Savoy, you could say Yeah, from a star point of view, from a star power point of view, these guys should have been the top dogs. Easton Cowan, Savoy, I mean, the names of guys that are returning from previous years or getting their first shots after being top scorers in their own leagues. Savoy should have been a good player at this tournament, but he had 1 point in 4 games. What happened here? Jordan Dumais had 2 points in 5 games. Easton Cowan, 2 points, 5 games. Oliver Bonk just set his Instagram to private because everybody's taunting him in the comment section of his post, which, by the way, you shouldn't be going out there and doing. These guys are just kids. They're not making any money from this tournament. This is just a highly televised competitive thing that a lot of Canadians feel too much nationalism within to go out there and start lambasting the kids who play in the games on social media. Don't do that. But the top guys that were supposed to be top guys, aside from Macklin, Celebrini pretty much, didn't show up. And the big question is, what happened? Even last year, just take a look at these guys. I mean, how many players did you have over a point per game? You had 6 right here, two of whom extra who were just under a point per game. 2023, 2024, though, I mean, the only 2 point per game guys were fourth liners. Like, Braden Yeager is a pretty good prospect, but he was a fourth liner in this tournament. Everybody else under a point per game, maybe 1 point under a point per game. Some of your top guys were way under a point per game. What happened here? Here is a post made on the Our Hockey Sub. Again, this is the Czechia goal. Here are some other comments that I thought were really interesting to read regarding this Team Canada loss and what happened to melt down this team. People are going to point at this, but they still let it get that far. Canada never looked completely sure of themselves all tournament, and it had zero chemistry. Poor tournaments from guys like Poitras, Geeky, Fraser Minton, and Matthew Savoy. I agree, even in the wins, it was individual brilliance. This was one of the worst groups I've ever seen in terms of team chemistry. So many missed passes and just floating about with little to no cohesion. And burying the only line that has chemistry in Allard, Danielson, and Beck. Terrible coaching for Canada at this World Junior Championship. Speaking about that Allard, Danielson, and Beck line, that line was so active. They created all that energy for the comeback in the second, and I barely saw them out there in the third. Just terrible bench management from this coaching group and not recognizing that. These guys should have been in the top 6, but no, they had to give Fraser Minton and Savoy 10 chances first. There's a bunch of comments going out there talking about this stuff. Double agent confirmed. Radek Bonk played the long game. Bonk is going to have nightmares for a long time. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to understand why. Oliver Bonk, I mean, look at the guy. His dad was Radek Bonk, who was a representative Czech for the international tournaments. It's just that Oliver was born and raised in Canada, so I mean, look, it's kind of funny. Of course, Radek Bonk is Czech, but he was playing in Canada when all this stuff went down. His son was born, which is why, Oliver was born in Ottawa, raised in Canada, and did all the things representing Team Canada. But now, I mean, yeah, double agent confirmed, eh? That's kind of funny to look at when you think about it like that. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire thing. Bonk will never forget this, and it wasn't even his fault. Feel bad for him there. Yeah, the turnover at the end. Turnover, you want to call it a turnover? I don't really know. It's whatever. They lost. Team Canada ended up losing. Such a forgettable team. Zeppelinoid goes out there and says, decent puck control and movement, but never really looked like an offensive powerhouse. Their defense and goaltending were good, but not great. It looked like a team that was waiting for the other team to either make a mistake or make a play. And Czechia obliged. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Canadian squad at the World Juniors and how they disappointed. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.